What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of NFL Nitro. It is your host, JackoFet9, joined by...
James Show Jam.
Yes, sir. And we're back for obviously another week with our Week 15 review, plus our Week 16 predictions.
Yeah.
You know how it is. Is there anything you'd like to say?
It was a really good week, so a lot to talk about this week, but let's get into it.
Yes, sir. Let's get right into it.
Thursday Night Football, one of the worst games of the season. You know, the whole nation was watching. The San Francisco 49ers win 12-6, or lose 12-6 to the Rams. There was 7 punts in the opening quarter of the game. 12 for the game. It was a terrible game to watch. No touchdowns scored. The Thursday Night Football games have honestly been pretty good this year too, so this is a bit of a letdown. But, you know, the Rams, with a win, are now first in the NFC West despite starting 1-4. Remember earlier, you know, they were very injured, they couldn't get it going, and here they are, top of the division. Kyron Williams was big in this game. He put up 108 yards on 29 carries, to be fair. But it was just that type of game, you know, grind it out. And that's exactly what he was doing. Stafford was solid, put up 160, but nothing crazy. Puka was amazing though, 7 for 97. He was really the only guy going for the Rams in their receiving group. The Rams, it's kind of surprising. They put up 40-some points amid the Bills, and now they're putting up 12. But they won both games. To be fair, you know, they got it done. For the Niners, though, some big storylines, but you know, the biggest being Devondre Campbell, the linebacker, who just decided he didn't want to play anymore and left in the third quarter. And you know, now it's looking like they're trying to get him suspended for a long time and pretty much end his career. I don't know what to say, really. It's absolutely crazy. But I guess that really sums up the 49ers season so far, you know. Debo continued to be trash as well in this game. Purdy was also struggling, had under a 50% completion percentage, 142 yards in a pick. And it's a really tough loss for a team that was at the Super Bowl last year and almost won it. But for the Rams, you know, they say in it, it's going to be very interesting to see who pulls it out, because the Seahawks have been playing really well recently. So have the Rams, so it's either of those two teams' game.
But the next game was the Dallas Cowboys getting the job done over the Carolina Panthers, 30 points to 14. In what was, you know, a game that we both picked actually, and it seemed that America was picking, you know, the Panthers to win. It was their first game that they were favored in like 2 years, I believe. It's kind of crazy, but that just shows how bad they've been, obviously, over these last couple of years. But they only just now got favored, and they still managed to lose. For the Cowboys though, it was actually a very sound game by Cooper Rush. He threw for 214 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I believe he might have had a fumble though, but still a very sound game by him. You can't really be too mad at that, especially for the backup. Rico Dowdle continues to keep growing for the Cowboys as well. He went with 25 carries for 149 yards. A really sound and solid game by him. CeeDee Lamb, he was, you know, back to his normal CeeDee Lamb ways. 9 receptions for 116 yards and a touchdown. He was really the only one that got going. A couple others had a few touchdowns, but except for that, not really too much happened. They did have a couple picks, but yeah, overall they played a really sound game of football. And yeah, they got the win. For the Panthers side of the ball though, Bryce Young threw for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, did throw 2 interceptions. It was not a great performance. I think he also had 2 fumbles, so 1 touchdown and 2 turnovers. Not a very great game by him whatsoever. 2 turnovers, I meant 4 turnovers. He did have an 80-yard touchdown to Jalen Coker, who did finish the game with 4 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown, so a really solid game by him overall. A really good game, I should say. Adam Thielen was fine. He had 5 receptions for 51 yards as well. But yeah, they could not get it done on the ground. They had just over 50 yards rushing. Not very good. I wasn't even looking when I did that. But yeah, just overall wasn't a great game by the Panthers. You know, I've been loving what they've been doing, obviously. I say it every week, but they just did not play all that well. But yeah, they're also, you know, a rebuilding team fighting for that, for those first couple of picks. This is a fine performance by both teams, I think, in what they're both trying to achieve.
Moving on, the next game is my Cleveland Browns. You know, I thought we had a chance against the Chiefs. I was wrong. One of the only teams this year to lose by multiple scores to the Chiefs. You know, I thought we were going to get some Jameis fireworks. He ended up getting benched by the fourth quarter. He had 3 picks, less than 150 yards. It was rough. DTR came in. Was not any better. Yeah. It's rough. And our run game couldn't get going. Nick Chubb, before he got hurt, couldn't do much. Jerome Ford was also struggling. Did have pretty much our only offense for the day, though, which was a 62-yard touchdown run. Yeah, and, you know, back on Nick Chubb, he is out for the season with a broken foot. I don't know how to even express how sad this makes me, because, you know, he was working so hard to get back from the crazy setback he had in Pittsburgh last year, just to break his foot and be out for the year. I'm praying that the Browns keep him, though. We're going to re-sign him. He deserves it, but we'll see. Jerry Jeudy, one of the only positives this season. You know, he's over 1,000 yards receiving on the year. He had 11 catches for 108 yards. He was great. Myles Garrett also got poked in the eye. Looked pretty bad. It was a rough day. Patrick Mahomes also got injured. A lot of injuries, but he was playing solid. 2 touchdowns. But nothing crazy. He was getting it done, though, just like he's done every week. Had an ankle injury in the 4th. I'd say he's probably going to be fine, though. He's going to be able to play through it. I think the real difference was we just couldn't pressure Mahomes. I mean, I should say we couldn't finish the play. We got pressures on him, but we couldn't. We were getting to him. We just couldn't. He kept getting out of it every time, and then finding someone. So tough loss, but then again, I don't know. Maybe I was an idiot expecting the Browns to beat the Chiefs. So. Yeah, onto the draft, I guess, for the Browns. At this point, there's no point in winning any other games. I hope we don't.
But the next game was the Miami Dolphins going down to the Houston Texans, 20 points to 12, in what was obviously not a very good game for the Dolphins whatsoever. But you know, let's start with the home team, of course. The Houston Texans. CJ Stroud played fine. He threw for 131 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not lighting it up this year, but he did fine. It wasn't really a terrible game by any means. And with that win and with the Colts loss, which we'll get into a bit later, they actually do clinch the AFC South. So pretty good day or pretty good week to be a Houston Texans fan. Their leading rusher was Dare Ogunbowale. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I believe it was a fake punt. So big plays happening on special teams, obviously, for them. Joe Mixon did not play very well. He had 12 rushes for 23 yards. Yeah, did not have a great day. As at times I feel like the Houston team has struggled to get any offense going. It's not been like it was last year for sure. Joe Mixon did have 33 receiving yards though. Yeah, Nico Collins, he had 4 receptions for 17 yards and 2 touchdowns. A very weird scoreline by him. I mean, and Derek Stingley, he seemed to go off. He's definitely one of the best corners in the league. He had 2 interceptions on the day. Had some great plays by him. But I feel like the more of the talk was the Dolphins. You know, it was a big game. They needed to win every game to potentially make the playoffs. And they did not play well. Tua threw for 196 yards, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. Was not very good at all. Devon Achane he had 41 rushing yards on 12 carries. Their leading receiver being Malik Washington, 52 yards. It's not been great. Tyreek Hill was virtually a non-factor, only at 30 yards. And I believe Jalen Waddle is injured for them, so it's basically all but over though. They did not play very well. They just aren't playing with much heart. But obviously, the big news out of the game, Grant DuBose, was it just a head collision? I'm not completely sure, but he went down with a really bad concussion or just head injury, which saw him have to be hospitalized. And in fact, it was so bad that he couldn't breathe by himself. But as far as we know, he's actually in stable condition. He's done pretty well right now. We hope the best for him. He's gonna obviously remain in here. And yeah, that kind of overshadows, I feel like, a bit of how bad Miami were. You know, it takes away from just how bad they were, but still, awful what happened to him, and it's just an awful performance by Miami in general. Maybe that did have something to do with it, who knows, but yeah, they just did not play very well. Good win for the Texans, clutch win for them, you know, clinching this South.
Next up, we have the New York Jets pulling it out 32-25.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers had a great week last week. He had another one this week. 289 yards in the air, 3 touchdowns. Had another 45 yards rushing. And he really got it going, especially in that second half. I mean, we saw the Devontae Adams connection. At the best it's been since, you know, they were back on the Packers together. He had 9 catches for 198 yards and 2 touchdowns. And they were all in the second half. So Garrett Wilson was solid as well, 3 for 56 and a touchdown. But yeah, that connection between Rodgers and Adams looked amazing, and that's what they were hoping to get from Rodgers. And when they traded for Devontae Adams as well, they were hoping to get that, and maybe, you know, next year they might see that a bit more. But, you know, Breece Hall struggled a bit, 9 carries for 30 yards, but scored the game-winning touchdown with a minute and 5 seconds left, so got it when it mattered. For the Jags, obviously Mac Jones was still the starter. He was fine. He was 31 for 46, almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. So he's been like solid. He's clearly not good enough to be a full-time starting QB, but he's a serviceable backup. I feel like he's gonna stay that. Brian Thomas had a great game, 10 catches, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know, he's been one of the standout rookies this year. Travis Etienne was solid as well, 14 for 65. But a nice win for the Jets. Both teams, I mean, the Jags, really, yeah, both teams should just be playing for the playoff spot. I mean, the draft pick.
Whoa, okay.
I mean, the Jets, both teams were supposed to be playing for a playoff spot, and here they are.
I'd say so, yeah. They've both been some of the biggest disappointments in the league for sure.
Nice one for the Jets, and you know, hopefully we see some more Devontae Adams, because he is fun to watch when he gets going. But this game didn't matter much for either teams aside from the draft pick. Jags are looking like they're going to have one of the top picks this year.
Alright. The next game was the Washington Commanders pulling out a close victory over the New Orleans Saints, 20 points to 19. I mean, it did come down to the wire, to the very last play, in fact. But we'll get into the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels, you know, in all fairness, I mean, I love Bo Nix, but Jaden Daniels might be the best rookie quarterback. I mean, I still love Bo Nix. He's my guy for sure, but Jaden Daniels has definitely been playing a lot better than what he had been a few weeks ago. He threw for 226 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Plus, he had 66 on the ground. That's a really nice day by him, for sure. Brian Robinson had 65 yards, so their rushing attack still as great as ever. Terry McLaurin had 73 yards on 7 receptions with 2 touchdowns, but none of the other receivers really did too much. And yeah, overall, just a really sound game by the Commanders. I feel like we kind of expect what their team is going to be like. You know, running the football and then playing complementary passing attack. That's kind of just what they've been doing, and that's exactly what they did this game. So, overall, really solid game, really sound game by them. I don't think that there'll be too many complaints. But the kind of big news in this one was the quarterback swap for the New Orleans Saints. Jake Hayner came in at quarterback and balled out 4 for 10, 49 yards and an interception. What a game. He'll never probably start again in the NFL. Although it is the Saints, anyone starts there, I guess. No, but obviously he did not play, all jokes aside, he did not play very well. I mean, yeah, it was not good. Bench for Rattler, who came in, threw for 135 yards, 1 touchdown, 0 interceptions. He played pretty well overall, and way better than what Jake Hayner did. In fact, they even had what appears to be a trick play where Cedric Wilson, I assume he's a wide receiver for them, came in and threw a 21-yard touchdown. So, I mean, they were definitely doing their job.
It was a great catch, too.
Rushing, Kendre Miller was their leading rusher with 9 rushes for 46 yards. Alvin Kamara only had 12 yards on 5 carries. I think he was injured. I think he has been injured. So obviously feeling the effects of the injury. He was good to start the season, but he's just fallen off a cliff.
He got involved a bit there in the receiving game.
Did he now? He did, actually. Marquez Valdez-Scantling was their leading receiver with 2 receptions for 64 yards. A fine day by him for sure. Alvin Kamara, as previously mentioned, did have 58 yards and a touchdown receiving, so he was good receiving wise. And their other touchdown catcher was Foster Moreau. But obviously, the kind of big play, it came down to the wire. The Saints scored a touchdown with, I believe, 0s on the clock. And they were down 20-19. They elected to go for the 2 instead of the tie. So they elected to go for the win, and unfortunately they didn't get it. I mean, overall, I feel like the Saints played a lot better than what, you know, they probably should be playing. I kind of said that they weren't very good last week, essentially. And yeah, they kind of proved me wrong, and they played really well. The Commanders did come off a bye.
Next up, we have a blowout. It was the Baltimore Ravens beating the New York Giants 35-14. It's games like this that, you know, make the MVP conversation so much better. Because Lamar is absolutely balling, so is Josh Allen. It's tough to pick, you know, who should win MVP between the two. But Lamar had 290 yards and 5 touchdowns in the air, plus 65 yards rushing. And he had a great day. And the Giants defense was getting cooked. They don't have like much talent at all on that defense, to be honest. And with Dexter Lawrence out, it's rough. Derrick Henry had a solid game, only 14 carries, but put up 67 yards. And it was Rashad Bateman, who's having a really good year. He led the Ravens in receiving yards, had 2 touchdowns, and 80 yards on 3 catches. He's been very surprising this year because I wasn't expecting that much out of him. He's been having a really sneaky, underrated year. So this is what you expect from a team as good as the Ravens. Over for the Giants, it's pretty rough. You know, Brian Dable might be in the hot seat at the end of the season. I'm not sure he's staying. I'm going to be honest. They just suck on both ends of the blackboard. They have no identity. You know, Tommy DeVito was all right, 10 for 13, 68 yards, but he got concussed late in the first half. Tim Boyle came in, wasn't very good. 12 for 24, 123, a TD and a pick. You know, and they couldn't get the run game going either. It was Tyrone Tracy, Devin Singletary put up 56 yards together on 18 carries. So Singletary did have a touchdown, but Malik Neighbors is maybe the only bright spot on the team from this game. You know, he had 10 catches for 82 yards and a TD. But outside, there's just, you know, I'm excited to see where they go in this offseason because they have a lot of positions that they need to fill. So it'll be interesting to see what they decide to do. But yeah, this is a game that no one's surprised at. The Ravens were clearly a much better team.
But the next game was the Bengals managing to beat out the Tennessee Titans 37 points to 27. In what was, all stats aside, actually a pretty improved performance by the Titans. I expected them to get blown out, but they didn't really get blown out. We'll start with the winners though, of course. The Bengals, Joe Burrow threw for 273 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did have 2 interceptions though. Not amazing, but he still got the job done at the end of the day. Chase Brown had a really solid game, 25 carries for 97 yards and a touchdown. He's actually turning into quite a solid back himself after, you know, Joe Mixon's departure. Jamar Chase continues to do Jamar Chase things. 9 receptions for 94 yards. Very solid game by him. T. Higgins had 5 receptions for 88 yards and a touchdown. Very nice game from him. It'll be interesting to see where he potentially might go in the off-season. Hopefully he's a Bronco. I would love that for sure. They didn't really have, you know, it was just a solid and sound game by them. There wasn't too much, you know, there's not too much to say about them. You know, they're still fighting obviously for a playoff spot. At the moment it kind of seems like the Chargers losing out kind of seems like their best bet. But yeah, the fact is they're still somehow in the playoff hunt. And all they can do is win no matter what. And that's what they're doing right now. But for the Titans, Will Levis did start the game, but I believe he was pulled out of the game after throwing 3 interceptions. He was 8 for 12, 89 yards, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had 4 incompletions, and 3 of those were interceptions. That's crazy. Mason Rudolph came in, threw for 209 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. Just to add the salt to the wound for Will Levis, I believe he did that in front of his ex, you know, if you like to keep up with the drama of the NFL wives, I guess, you know, I don't know, yeah, he clearly got stage fright from seeing her. He clearly got scared and did not play very well. Tony Pollard had 17 carries for 45 yards and a touchdown. He's been up and down for them for sure. This is an okay game for him though. Especially when they really don't have an offensive line. But Tajay Spears did have 87 yards receiving and a touchdown. A really nice game from him. Chiga Konko had 59 yards. I mean, yeah, they have some decent young pieces for sure. But yeah, in case you didn't see it, Devondre Sweat made maybe the big man play of the week, potentially. There was actually a couple of different guys who did well. But he forced a fumble and then picked it up and rumbled down for like 40 yards. What a play by the big man. But yeah, that was really all the joy that was for the Titans. Overall, decent victory for the Bengals. They somehow now have a slight chance in this playoff race.
The next game is the Arizona Cardinals pulling it off against the New England Patriots, 30-17. Kyler was solid, put up 224 yards in the air, had a good completion percentage. James Conner, he's him, 16 carries for 110 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had a great day. Also put up 28 yards receiving. Trey McBride continues his great year. He's, pretty comfortably, probably a top 5 tight end, you could say, in the NFL right now. He had 87 yards on 9 catches. Greg Dortch was even getting involved. It was just everyone for the Cardinals, it felt like. He had 3 catches for 60 yards. For Greg Dortch, would take that. He's more of a special teamer. But for the Patriots, Drake May was solid actually. 19 for 23, 202 yards. A touchdown in the air and on the ground. Did throw a pick, but not terrible. Kendrick Bourne was the leading receiver for the Patriots with only 44 yards and 3 catches. Mario Douglas did have a touchdown, 11 yards on 3 catches. The Patriots just couldn't do much offensively or defensively, and it led to this being not a great game. Cardinals, I still believe that they, can get it going. They're not that far out. Obviously, that division's really close. They still have a chance, but it's going to be tough to catch up to the Seahawks and the Rams with how they're playing.
Now it's time to talk about my Denver Broncos beating down on the Indianapolis Colts 31 points to 13 in what started as not a good game. We'll start with those Colts. Anthony Richardson was not very good. He threw 17 for 38, 178 yards or 172 yards, 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Did have a touchdown rushing on their first drive of the game, but yeah, he did not play that well, except for the first quarter where he had 100 yards. He did not play for actually 80 yards, but he did not play very well. He just kept putting the ball in tough positions and we kept making pay. We got a couple of good picks in there. But like I did mention, he did have a rushing touchdown, 7 rushes for 46 yards, plus a touchdown. And, their leading rusher was Jonathan Taylor, 22 rushes for 117 yards and a touchdown. Ooh, sorry, I meant no touchdowns. In case you didn't see, he ran in for a touchdown, but decided he didn't want it. He didn't want it, and he wanted the Broncos to win, so he dropped it before getting in, which caused it to be our ball. Obviously, it went through the back of the end zone, so it was a turnover, and it was our football. Michael Pittman had a sound game. Had 6 receptions for 58 yards. He was fine. But yeah, he was kind of just their leading receiver. Kyle Granson was fine. He was doing decently. But yeah, they didn't really have too much happening offensively. They had so many turnovers. They had a couple of fumbles in there too. One of their wide receivers, I think it might have been Josh Downs or Adonai Mitchell, had a fumble as well. So yeah, not a very great game by them. Yeah, Adonai Mitchell, Michael Pittman, and Jonathan Taylor all had fumbles. So not a great game by them whatsoever. But for the Broncos, Bo Nix, he wasn't much better in all fairness. 20 for 33, 130 yards, 3 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. He started really slow, did not play very well. For basically the first 3 quarters, he was not very good at all. Yeah, the 3 interceptions were kind of brain dead by him, I'm not gonna lie. It was 2 overthrows and then a pick straight to a linebacker. He is still a rookie at the end of the day. Both these guys have actually played the same amount of games, I think, in their career. Or it might be this season at least. So they're both, playing like rookies at the moment. Bo Nix did play better at the end of the game though, for sure. A couple of good touchdowns in there. Rushing, Bo Nix was our leading rusher with 23 yards. That just shows the state of the running back group, where they can barely even muster up like 50 yards combined. Jaleel McLaughlin had 21. I mean, Javonte had 15. It was not good whatsoever. Offensively, we just weren't very good. I mean, 3 touchdowns is pretty decent, but yeah, rushing wise, it didn't help anything. Our leading receiver was Colton Sutton with 32 yards, and Marvin Mims, he had 20 yards, and he was so big on punt returns. He had multiple big punt returns. One set up a touchdown. He had such a good game, special teams wise. Adam Troutman had a good touchdown as well. Overall, it was not a very good game by us by any means, but kind of the big play was Nick Benito as well. He had a pick 6 or a fumble recovery 6. It was basically a pick 6. And all I'm gonna say is he's the DPOY for sure. And if it's not him, it should be PS2. That's all I'm gonna say. PS2 also had an interception. So big games by the 2 DPOY candidates. It should only be them 2 and maybe like Myles Garrett, I guess. Not even that. Myles Garrett's on a losing team. He can't win it. But yeah, overall, really good game. Really great fourth quarter. We scored like all of our points in the fourth quarter. So, yeah.
Yeah, last week, we were talking about the crazy Bills-Rams game and how that is the game of the year. Well, this game is right in that conversation. It's the Buffalo Bills pulling it off 48-42 against the Detroit Lions. Crazy game, 90 points combined, over 1,000 total yards. And then we're going to start with Josh Allen, my MVP so far. He had an amazing day. Put up 362 yards, 2 touchdowns. Had another 68 yards rushing and another 2 touchdowns rushing. So he was phenomenal. James Cook really had it going as well. 14 rushes for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ty Johnson was getting it going in the receiving game. 5 catches for 114 yards. And it's that injured Lions defense just couldn't stop the Bills at all. King Coleman had 64 yards on the catch. Don Kincaid was solid for 53. And yeah, the Bills offense was just absolutely phenomenal. But the same can be said about the Lions, because the Bills defense is also rough. Jared Goff had 494 passing yards, 5 touchdowns. He's in the MVP conversation as well. It's really a 3-horse race, him, Allen, and Lamar. Jimmy Gibbs was solid. Put up only 31 yards rushing in the TD, but also had 83 yards receiving and another receiving touchdown. So, Amon-Ra St. Brown had one of his best games of the year, putting up 193 yards in the TD. Laporta had 111. The Lions had it going. They tried an onside. So, there was like 10 minutes left. I don't know why they tried it, but it didn't work. I don't know why they got rid of surprise onside, but without surprise onside kicks, there's no point in trying one in that point, Just trust your defense, hope to get some stops,
They would have 100% have done it as well, like as a surprise, if it was allowed to be a surprise.
It's a stupid rule. I don't know why they got rid of it, but whatever. Liam McNeil, Khalil Dorsey, Carlton Davis, David Montgomery, all injured in this game. It's the Lions. They're still a great team, but their roster feels like half their team's on IR right now. The amount of injuries they're getting, and this is not the part of the year where you want to be getting those injuries. So it's rough. But the Bills the Bills clinched their division. Shout out to them for clinching the AFC East as well. Both teams are real contenders, and I think this was a great game, and this shows how dangerous both teams can be. I think I said the same thing last week, but it's a similar game. It fell up.
But the next game was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers getting the job done in dominant fashion over the Los Angeles Chargers, 40 points to 17. Like I said, dominant, and that's what it was. For the Bucks, Baker Mayfield went off 288 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. A great game by him, you know. I told him, you know, I said, you gotta keep down the interceptions, but that doesn't matter when you're putting up a bunch of, a lot of touchdowns like he just did. Great game by him. Bucky Irving went off and had 117 yards rushing. Rashad White was really nice with 164 yards on the ground. It was their man, Mike Evans, going off 9 receptions for 159 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was balling out. The Chargers could not stop him to save their lives. Jalen McMillan also had a really nice game, 75 yards and a touchdown. Overall, it was just a really solid game, or a really good game offensively by the Bucks. Doing all of that on the #1 defense, by the way, or the #1 like scoring defense, is kind of crazy. And yeah, they just played really well. There's not too much to say about it. They did their job. They did everything right. They got the job done for sure. Only had 3 sacks, which was Levante David and David Long, I think. Logan Hall, sorry, not David. I'm thinking of something else. But yeah, overall, really solid game by them for sure. But for the Chargers side of the ball, it just wasn't working. Justin Herbert had 195 yards, 2 touchdowns to 1 interception. That was his first interception in like 11 games, I think it was. So he's been really clean for the most part. He's been really solid as a quarterback, basically his whole career, and this year has been no different. But did get that interception. Yeah, their running game is basically cooked without J.K. Dobbins. So Gus Edwards had 8 carries for 23 yards. That was basically it, rushing wise. They only just got over 30 yards rushing. That's kind of crazy. James Water saving. It's all gone. Lad McConkey, he was really nice in his comeback though. 5 receptions for 58 yards and a touchdown. Quentin Johnston was actually decent. He had 45 yards and a touchdown. Stone Smart had 50 yards receiving as well. Oh, it's really early, guys. Wake up. But yeah, it just was not a very good game by the Chargers, as record suggests. But yeah, good win for the Bucks, who look like they are the best team in the NFC South.
Next game was the Eagles playing against the Steelers, 27-13. Jalen Hurts had a great game, put up 290 yards and 2 touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown, as he usually does. AJ Brown had 48 yards in the first quarter receiving, so, you know, any thoughts of maybe some problems between him and Jalen Hurts, they should be going after that. I feel like they made it a point to get him the ball. He finished with 8 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown. Saquon Barkley had a down game, you could say, for his standards. Put up 65 yards on 19 carries, but you know, he's still Saquon Barkley. The Eagles surprised me. They played really well against the Steelers. Yeah, I thought, you know, I predicted the Steelers to win because I thought they'd be able to hold up the pass game a bit more, but no, they were getting torched. But for the Steelers, it was, you know, Russell Wilson didn't have the best performance, put up only 128 yards, had a touchdown there. But the main thing though, with the Steelers, you know, their defense getting cooked, their offense couldn't keep track. Obviously, Russ had a down game, but the team only put up 56 yards rushing as a team. When you're playing one of these good teams like the Eagles, you're going to want to establish the run early, because then it'll open up the pass game. But they weren't able to. Calvin Austin was their leading receiver for 65 yards and 5 catches. the Steelers' offense right now it wasn't good in that game. They need a spark, and I think a big part of that is George Pickens. Obviously, he's injured right now. I think they're a lot better with him out there just because he's such a threat. Teams always have to be looking out for him. He opens up the game. But this was a really nice win for the Eagles. Both teams are pretty comfortably a playoff team. The Steelers are just trying to hold on to that division lead. They're a game above the Ravens at this point. So who knows what's going to happen. But yeah, nice win for the Eagles.
But anyways, the final game of Sunday night was the Green Bay Packers getting the job done over the Seattle Seahawks. 30 points to 13, a really sound game by them. We'll start with the Packers. Jordan Love threw for 229 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's been playing really well recently. He's been locked in. In a game that I predicted that, the Packers would win. Josh Jacobs had 94 yards on the ground and a touchdown, a fine performance by him on 26 carries, so that just shows how much he's being used, producing. Christian Watson led the Packers in receiving with 56 yards. Josh Jacobs was actually quite good in the receiving game with 42 yards, so he had over 100 yards of total offense. Romeo Dobbs picked up a couple of touchdowns with 40 yards receiving. What was a very solid game from all the receivers. Jaden Reed getting in there with 34 yards along with Tucker Craft. Overall, just a really solid game by them offensively. There's not really too many, too much doubts. I think they've just got a really talented roster, as we know. But moving on to the Seattle Seahawks, in just what was not the best game ever, for sure. Geno Smith did, I believe, get injured, but while he was out there, he threw for 150 yards, 0 touchdowns and an interception. Did not play very well. His replacement, Sam Howell, was not much better. Only threw for 24 yards and an interception. 0 touchdowns and an interception. Overall, their offense, especially without Geno, is just not going to be great. Their offense overall wasn't amazing though this game. I feel like they're a team with so much talent, but sometimes they just can't put it together. Maybe it's the coaching. I'm sure there's a lot wrong with it. Or a lot behind the scenes, I should say. Zach Charbonnet continuing his productive season, I should say, with the injury to Kenneth Walker. He had 54 on the ground and a touchdown. Wasn't doing it all this game, but he had a fine game overall. I think he can kind of hold his head high. But a man who can definitely hold his head high, after his team's poor performance, is Ohio State's Jackson Smith-Njigba, who had a really nice game, 10 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. He is by far their best receiver. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, speaking of DK, he only had 23 yards. Not a very good game by him. And overall, he's just been not very good this season, I'm not gonna lie. I think PS2 spooked him week 1 and now he's just not it. But yeah, really good win for the Packers overall. The Seahawks, obviously, as you mentioned earlier, the Rams have taken the lead in the division. I believe they did sweep the Seahawks. So it's not looking great for the Seahawks. They could be without Geno. And they're probably not going to make the playoffs because of the Rams being elite now. A lot of problems. A lot of problems in Seattle right now for sure.
The next game, first game of Monday Night Football. It was Sam Darnold, the Minnesota Vikings, pulling it out pretty easily against the Chicago Bears. 30-12. Minnesota just got ahead early, got a big lead in the first half. Sam Darnold had a great game. He had a good game, 231 yards, a TD and a pick. Aaron Jones was nice, 86 yards and a touchdown. Cam Akers also had a touchdown. I'm defending the wrong net.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Oh,
I saw you.
I got
sitting there.
disorientated. One of the best receiver duos in the league, Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson, were producing again. Both had over 70 yards. Oh no. Justin Jefferson had 73, Jordan Addison had 63. Both had 7 catches. Jefferson had a touchdown as well. TJ Hawkinson had a solid game as well. But yeah, the Vikings, they got up 13-0 in the first half and look back. For the Bears, Caleb Williams had a solid game. He put up 190 yards and a touchdown. Wasn't terrible, no interceptions, which is a good thing. Did have a fumble though, but he's still young. DeAndre Swift was fine, 79 yards on 19 carries. Nothing crazy though. But yeah, and Keenan Allen put up 6 catches for 82 yards, had a touchdown. He was there for sure their best receiver. DJ Moore also had a solid game, but outside of those two, there wasn't much. Adunze had 2 catches for 39. Great win for the Vikings. They are now tied with the Lions after the Lions lost to the Bills. They are tied, but they do. I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
they do play the Lions week 18, so that'll be a great game.
The last game was the Atlanta Falcons managing to hold on to the clutch victory over the Las Vegas Raiders, 15 points to 9. What was an absolute shootout. And speaking of shootouts, the greatest shooter, Desmond Ridder, he was feeling dangerous this game, that's for sure. Threw for 208 yards, 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in his revenge game. Man, what a game by him. No, but obviously they're on like their 3rd quarterback at this point. It's not been great for them, for sure. The season's been a real struggle, just judging by their record. Desmond Ridder was their leading rusher as well, my god. He had 28 yards on the ground. Fine day, if I do say so myself. Not really. Jacoby Myers had 5 receptions for 60 yards, a fine game by him. Amir Abdullah, he was nice for sure. He had 58 yards receiving and a touchdown. He was fine. Oh my goodness. The Brock Bowers only had 3 receptions for 35 yards. He hasn't really been doing too much recently, but it's not really his fault when his team has a different quarterback every week. For the Falcons, Kirk Cousins played okay. He only had 112 yards, one touchdown and 1 interception. He just kind of played, that's like the definition of mid, I'm not gonna lie. He just played very mid. Bijan Robinson had 1. Well, Bijan Robinson was anything but mid. He had 22 carries for 125 yards. 0 touchdowns though, but he is looking like Falcons franchise. Bijan Robinson. He's cooking for sure. He's having a really nice season now. Really coming into his own, I think, and kind of carrying this offense. Drake London had 3 receptions for 53 yards and a touchdown. Really nice. I wish he went off for like 200 and like 5 touchdowns so I could win my fantasy game, but we can't have nice things, I guess. And yeah, no one really did anything else noteworthy for the Falcons offense. Overall, really whack game. I believe it did also come down to a last play. The Raiders had a Hail Mary opportunity, but it was intercepted. And overall, just not a great game by any team. The Falcons are just barely scraping onto the season, and they definitely do not deserve to win the division whatsoever. The Bucks are going to win it pretty easily, I think. Here's on screen how we did for the week.
If you're a
Since
sicko,
James
that
O'Jam
likes
ain't mentioning it,
seeing
I guess.
Yeah, there it is.
I was cooking. I don't know, but I was cooking. I had only 3 wrong. You kind of suck, I'm not gonna lie. You were
It is
a
okay.
ball knower at the start of the year.
Yeah, I took
Mate,
too many
suck.
shots.
Yeah, you take way too many shots.
Well, at this point, I have nothing to do, so I'm fine with picking the Browns over the Chiefs. But maybe I shouldn't have been picking the Browns those other weeks.
Thinking with your heart, not your brain.
I'm a Browns fan.
It's okay. I think with my brain. Yeah, you guys. Well, it's fair enough. Your organization doesn't even have a brain. Thinking that Deshaun was better than Baker.
Before this game ends, I just want to say, the Cleveland Cavaliers blew out the Nets today. We're up by like 30 at quarter time. It felt like. We're cooking. We're the best team in the league, so I care. You know, that's a Cleveland team I do care about.
Nuggets as well, though. You know, we were up 20 in the first quarter and blew it, but we still ended up winning. Jamal Murray had a game-winning shot. He's back. He had 28 points. I'd like to mention. Let us cook.
On to the predictions. Best part of the
The
video.
first game of Week 16 is my Denver Broncos taking on the Chargers. Oh man, am I scared. I kind of mentioned last week I'm never not picking them, at least for the rest of the season, and that goes without saying. You know, we played not great. We started really badly last game, but we ended. It's not about how you start, it's about how you finished, and we dominated. Meanwhile, the Chargers, they've looked like a shell of themselves recently, especially without J.K. Dobbins. Give me the Broncos to storm into LA and beat the Chargers. Yeah.
I personally am going to take the Chargers. I'm still not 100% convinced, you know, y'all haven't beat anyone all too amazing yet. So this is going to be a really fun, exciting matchup, I do think. So yeah, give me the Chargers. Moving on, we have the Houston Texans at the Kansas City Chiefs. And I'm unfortunately going to have to pick the Chiefs here. It's at Arrowhead as well. And you know, they've only lost one game in the season, so I really have to explain myself much more. You know, they may not be the most convincing team because all their wins are really close, but they get them nonetheless. So give me the Chiefs.
Yeah, I agree. It is going to be interesting to see with the Patrick Mahomes injury, but I feel like the Patrick Mahomes injury and then he comes out and still wins and manages to find ways to win every single season gimmick is kind of getting lame and boring now. Let's be for real, he's just faking it. So
Damn.
we know he's going to be in there and they're going to win anyways. But the next game of, well, Saturday football actually is my game of the week. The Steelers did not play very well. George Pickens will probably be back, I would think, that next week. And Lamar Jackson just had an MVP-like performance. You know, it's going to be such a big game. I do think TJ Watt is hurt, but I'm not completely sure. No, but it's going to be a really good game in Baltimore. I haven't even given my predictions. Oh my god. Give me Baltimore. The way that they played and the way Lamar played, he's locked in, he's dialed in. He wants that MVP. You can tell. He wants another. And I think he can definitely do it with an MVP-like performance. I don't think the Pittsburgh defense is going to give him 5 touchdowns, but I think that he'll get the job done.
Yeah, I'm taking the Ravens as well, at home, you know. The Steelers were a little disappointing against the Eagles last week. They did well, to be fair, containing Saquon. I think they might have some similar success against Derrick Henry, but I mean, Lamar just threw for 5 touchdowns. What are you supposed to do if you're the Steelers? The Ravens are getting hot. They've been one of the hottest teams all year, actually, and they've been playing well. So I'm taking the Ravens at home. Next up is on Sunday night football. Not night, Sunday football.
You say.
It's the New York Giants at the Atlanta Falcons. And maybe they will win out if these are the type of games they're getting. Oh yeah, I'm gonna have to take Atlanta. They may not, you know, be looking amazing, but the Giants suck. So, and it's at Atlanta. So I'm gonna have to go Atlanta. Yeah. I'm not convinced at all with the Giants. So.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that there's really much, you know, to say. The Giants they suck, bro. They're so bad. And yeah, the Falcons are slightly better. So give me the Falcons. The next game is the Arizona Cardinals taking on the Panthers. I think that this could be a pretty fun matchup. But I am taking the Cardinals, you know. We did make the meme last week that they were slipping. And, you know, maybe they're out to prove us wrong. Back-to-back easy games is kind of wild, but... yeah, the Cardinals, they're looking to obviously win that tight NFC West between them and the Rams and the Seahawks. I think that they can get the job done. The Panthers are also playing for a draft pick, you gotta think. Oh my.
Yeah, I'm the same way. The Cardinals got it done. They looked pretty good last week, even if it was against a bad Patriots team. Panthers aren't that convincing, and they're also just a really bad team, nothing to play for. Well, Arizona have a division on the line, pretty much. So I'm gonna take Arizona here. Moving on, we have the Detroit Lions going into Chicago to play the Bears. And I'm gonna have to take Detroit. We just saw a similar matchup with Minnesota. I like the Bears, but at this point in the season, they also have nothing to play for, and they don't look too great. The Lions are obviously still one of the best teams, even though they're so injured. But yeah, I'm gonna take Detroit here.
I actually, you know, I'm gonna go out and say this is my lock of the week. I think Detroit can win. The Bears, they have nothing to play for, as you mentioned. The Lions, I think that they can get their get back. I mean, Jared Goff just played one hell of a game, and I think that he can do it again, and that the Lions can do it again and get another big victory over another divisional rival. Also, can we just mention this guy is putting up like the carry of all carries right now. But the next game is the Indianapolis Colts taking on the Tennessee Titans. Let bro cook. And give me the Indianapolis Colts. They aren't good. They're out of the playoff race essentially, close to. But the Titans are as well. The Titans are obviously fighting for a top pick, as it appears that over half the league is apparently. Like I keep saying it, I'm just realizing now how much I've actually said that, because it's true. Like, so many teams are fighting for a top draft pick.
Yeah!
But yeah, give me the Colts. They didn't play very well, but you know, they just want to win, maybe.
I'm also going to be taking the Colts here. It's in Indianapolis as well. And as you said, you know, there's a lot of teams that are sucking. If the Titans were to just win one game, their draft pick would decline by at least like 5 picks. So they sort of have no choice but to lose. Will Levis had a really poor performance as well. So yeah, I'm going to have to take the Colts. But the game after that is the LA Rams, who are absolutely balling. They're going into New York to play the Jets. I think this could be an actual bit closer, you know, than you might think. But I'm going to take the Rams here. They've just been so good this year. And the Jets have been pretty disappointing. They've been turning it up lately, at least offensively, but their defense still sucks. So I'm going to have to take the Rams.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. The Rams, yeah, they've been cooking recently. And I mean, I agree with everything you're saying. I think that this could be interesting. Maybe, you know, they kind of got the breakaway game they needed, the confidence boost that they needed to maybe at least be a somewhat competitive football team. But I mean, it'd be dumb for them to win games, let's be for real. And it was kind of dumb for them to win that football game. Now their draft stock, they're probably like picking at like 16 right now, so pretty bad. But yeah, give me the Rams. And the next game is the Philadelphia Eagles taking on the Washington Commanders. Gonna be a really close and interesting game, I think. As the NFC East matchups seem to be quite a lot. And give me the Eagles. They've been cooking recently, you know. They get the job done in many ways. Jalen Hurts definitely showed up, that's for sure. He played really well last week in the win. He did his job. And I mean, the Commanders, they were coming off the bye, obviously. They were probably feeling it a bit. And so I would think they would play a bit better this week, but still, give me the Eagles. I think that they can get the job done.
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles as well there. Washington has been a nice young success story, but the Eagles are one of, in my opinion, one of the true few contenders in the NFC, along with maybe the Vikings and Lions. But yeah, they've been really good, and they played well against a great Steelers defense, so I see them pulling this one out. But the game after that is my Cleveland Browns at the Cincinnati Bengals, and I'm going to take the Bengals because at this point I don't want the Browns to win. I was riding the high of some good Jameis games, so I was hoping they could pull it out, but I don't want to win anymore. I'm fine with where we're at. And the Bengals, they still have a little bit of hope. It's very unlikely they actually do make it, but and you're not going to sit down Joe Burrow and tell him to lose. So, give me the Bengals.
Yeah, give me Bengals. I was gonna try and make a joke or something about how I'm gonna pick Cleveland, but Cleveland, there's nothing. They're dead.
Joe Judy though.
Woo! Let's go, Jerry. Yeah, give me Bengals.
Receivers.
Cool.
He's a top 5 receiver in the NFL.
Cool. He's 3-11.
That's
The next
what
game is the
receivers say.
Vikings versus the Seahawks. And give me the Vikings. I think that they can get it done. Especially considering that they are now, as you mentioned earlier in the episode, tied with the Detroit Lions. I think that will fuel them. And the Seahawks, as I mentioned earlier, without Geno Smith potentially, and I don't know, they just don't really play well against big teams. I think that this could be a big struggle for them. But yeah, give me the Vikings.
Now, what I'm about to say relies heavily on if Geno does play. Right now, they're optimistic, but not completely sure. But this is actually going to be my game of the week because I feel like the Seahawks, they had a slip up last week, but aside from that, they've been playing really well. And it is in Seattle. I am going to take Minnesota though, but I do think this could be a really close, good game.
I personally think it's going to be bad.
Well, you're wrong.
Am I? What was my record last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Buddy.
And the game after that is going to be my lock of the week. The Buffalo Bills at home. I have them beating the Patriots pretty comfortably. The Patriots look lost on both ends of the football right now. Drake May's put in some solid performances, but I think Drake May could have a solid game actually too against the Buffalo's defense. But when you're putting up 40 points pretty much consistently at this point, back-to-back weeks, there's no way the Bills drop this game.
Yeah, I agree with you. We've been agreeing a lot this video, but yeah, a lot of David versus Goliath games. This is no exception, but this is no exception. The Bills, they just should dominate them. They've been scoring points left, right, and center with their MVP caliber quarterback, Josh Allen. And yeah, the Patriots simply just have no talent. There's not really too much to say about this, I don't think. Yeah. The next game though is interesting. It's going to be Jacksonville taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm gonna go Jacksonville. They've been playing pretty well as of recently. They would obviously be dumb to win this game, but I don't think it's about who wants to win it more. I think it's going to be about who wants to lose it more. And the Raiders, I think at this point they should be really considering losing more. And I think that they'll lose more, want to lose more. And so Give me the Raiders to lose more, more losing and lose.
Interesting reasoning there, but I do agree that I think that the Jags are going to win this game. He's in Las Vegas, but the Raiders, their quarterback play is just awful. Mac Jones has put in some solid. He's shown a little bit at least. And I can't say I trust the Raiders anymore, and I trust Mac Jones and some of the Jags players. I like Jacksonville's team a lot more. I personally didn't think they'd be close to this bad, but I'm gonna take Jacksonville. I just think they're a much more talented team. But the next game is the San Francisco 49ers at the Miami Dolphins, and I'm gonna take the Niners here. You know, I was high on the Dolphins a few weeks ago, if you recall, but their play, you know, not even just last week, but even the week they won the week prior, it just, they don't look like they care out there, I'm not gonna lie. And so I'm gonna take San Francisco. In the end though, both teams have had rough seasons. But yeah, San Francisco are also much more in the, you know, playoff hunt than the Dolphins are, so they have a lot more on the line.
Yeah, it's extremely, what's the word, comical that you would say that about the Dolphins, considering, oh, I don't know, one of the 49ers players just seemingly left the game because he didn't care. And you know what, give me the Dolphins. We need a difference. I think that they're the tale of like the exact same team where they came in, and obviously it was more so injuries. I think injuries for both teams actually, I should say. I was gonna say more injuries for the Niners, but both teams injuries. And overall just disappointing play.
Two of the whole year. I feel like they could have made the...
They probably would have, because they were losing games. They were losing, yeah, they were terrible without him. But yeah, give me the Dolphins. You know, they're basically the same team where they've been really disappointing. They have not been living up to expectations. But yeah, give me Dolphins. And then the last game of Sunday on Sunday Night Football is the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Dallas. The Cowboys played well, but I think that the Bucs are cooking. They're well and truly back. Mike Evans, he's well and truly back. He's trying to get 1,000 yards. You got to score that. But yeah, give me the Bucs to storm into Dallas and get the job done over the Cowboys, trying to secure that division. Obviously, you know, they did it to Los Angeles. There's no reason why they can't do it to Dallas.
Yeah, I have the Bucs as well. The Cooper Rush has actually been a really good backup there, but the Buccaneers, Baker Mayfield just put on a great performance, and he's had a really good season at some bad games, but overall a great season for him. And I am inclined to believe that they, you know, are going to pull this one out. They've just been a much better team than the Cowboys, even though their record's close. Monday Night Football. What a matchup. Saints at the Packers. I'm going to take the Packers here. It's at Lambeau. I am very confident that they're going to pull this out. If I had another lock of the week, this would probably be it. I don't know, there's a lot of games it could be. But yeah, the Packers have just been a really good team. Saints have looked better, but like recently, but they're not as good as the Packers. The Packers are one of the top teams in the NFC, gonna be probably the top wildcard, or the second wildcard spot behind one of their division rivals.
Do I even have to say anything? Give me Packers.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.
Yeah, shout out to Travis Hunter for winning the Heisman. Personally, I would have gone Genty, but you know, I can't argue that Travis Hunter hasn't had a phenomenal season, so big award for him. And you know, the college football playoffs are coming. I'm actually quite excited for it. So
should be interesting.
Yeah.
See where the top talent goes.
Who do you think's gonna pull it out?
I don't know, Georgia. I don't know the top team. I think, are they the top team? No,
Oregon
Oregon are, aren't they?
Yeah.
Probably Oregon.
I'm taking Ohio State. They're gonna win 4
yeah,
straight.
sure.
Ohio State are
And
really
they-
good when they're not playing Michigan.
That's true.
That
I
being
hate the
said,
Bengals.
that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week, so make sure to hit that
We
bell.
pulled out a
Make
good
sure
win.
to leave a like, subscribe. Please make a comment of anything. I don't care anymore.
Oh.
I just want to see one comment on our video, please.
That's crazy.
You know, we have some things planned for the off season, but for
I
the
threw
rest
a
of the season,
game-winning
we're just gonna be,
touchdown. That's what happened.
You know, chugging out
Yeah,
these
my
videos.
rookie speed.
We've been quite
the
consistent this
receiver,
year.
99 speed.
I'm proud to say. But that being said, we'll see you next week.
On like the
Bye.
last
Bye
play.
bye.
Dang! Ah!
Who?
Clutch time. Call me DG. Cause I'm an
Take your
end.
shirt off.
I want this game to end so I can stop the recording. But this team sucks so bad.
But yeah, give me the Dolphins. You know, they're basically the same team where they've been really disappointing. They have not been living up to expectations.
Bro,
I didn't.
I didn't just pass it to you out in all the space in the world and you can score.
I didn't feel like it. Die.